Hello, Lisa here. Welcome back to my channel, or welcome if this is your first time stopping by. Today we are going to be doing a walkthrough of the Cracked Amethyst Tarot by Jessica Bott, as well as a quick little comparison with the EDSA Tarot Mini, and I'll also show this little Amethyst Oracle Mini as well. So we'll be doing these two, as well as the full-size Cracked Amethyst Tarot. So if you're curious about these, then stay tuned. First of all, though, if you're new here, hello, my name is Lisa. I am a content creator here on YouTube. Obviously, I like to make videos about tarot and oracle and all the divination-y related things, but I'm also a tarot deck creator myself, as well as an author, and I will throw up an infographic with where you can check out my work. Now, with that said, we're going to dive into this. Now, a little bit of backstory for this. So I would say that my one and only, I shouldn't say only, I've been very, very blessed that several times when I've been wanting to get a hold of a out-of-print deck, either somebody has generously and very, very kindly gifted or traded it to me or sold it to me or whatever, or I've been able to find a copy. So I haven't had very many things sit on my I just can't get them list, except for this deck, the EDSA deck by Jessica Bott. This is, of course, little teeny mini, and it's super cute, but the full size of this was on my I really, really want this list for a very, very, very long time. I do have a copy of the Amethyst Oracle in full size that I'm not going to bother pulling out for this because I just don't think it makes sense. I've got the little minis here and they'll go very nicely, next to each other. But both the Amethyst Oracle and EDSA deck have been out of print for a long time, with the EDSA deck being out of print for even longer. Now, this was originally a vector illustrated deck, and basically, I gave up hope a long time ago, but I kept my eyes out. And since then, Jessica Bott decided to essentially create a new updated version, essentially, of this deck. And that is what we have here in the Cracked Amethyst Tarot. Now, I can already tell you at first glance that this is a significant upgrade in the art quality and what is happening on the cards, and has made me realize that it was well worth the wait. But I have been eagerly awaiting this for a very long time. So I am going to be flipping through it side by side with the little EDSA deck mini, because for anybody that has previously been interested in the EDSA deck or who already has it and is wondering if this is for you, I want you to be able to see the changes to the artwork and updates and so forth since. But nowadays, of course, if you want the EDSA deck, your only option is this little mini. So I'm going to set this over here. I will say that as the mini decks go, this is quite mini. We'll see when we compare it to the deck here. I mean, you can really see this is standard tarot size, and here's our little mini. Like, we're little bitty. We're very little bitty. But I will say that this is quite a practical kind of artwork if you are going to work with the mini, because it's very clear to see what's happening, what's on the images. They're not hyper detailed. They're not very busy. So it's very easy to like see what you're looking at. So that makes them effective as mini decks go. Now, as far as the Cracked Amethyst Tarot, I backed this on Kickstarter. And it's got a beautiful box with a rose petally finish and lots of little UV accented bits here with the mushrooms, which just really feel magical, I think, on this deck. It's definitely got a darker vibe. And you even have these like UV glossed symbols on the side. You have like a spiral, a moon. I don't know if you'll see these. There we go. A star, a flame, a wind symbol, and whatever that is. It's like a stylized letter H, but I'm sure that's not what it's meant to be. I don't know. So anyways, you have some symbols, which is great. Some mushrooms on the bottom and just plain on the top. And when you open this up, it does open up here. I prefer when they open down here. I think technically this style is way more popular. Most of the time, if you're going to get a magnetic open, this is how it's going to open. But Jessica did this great thing with a continuing scene here across the front, including the cover of the guidebook. So it just kind of all becomes one cohesive thing, which is very cool. The guidebook doesn't actually need to have a title or anything like that on it. So I think that's really cool. I have so much to say about the guidebook, but we're going to get into that separately because it's very unique. And here we have the cards. So let's pull these out. In the bottom of the deck, you have this hanging key design, and you also have that on the back. And as you can see, there is some reminiscence here to the original deck back, but it's been obviously updated and is more involved now. The cards themselves do have this is magnetic. The cards themselves do have a rose petally finish. What's happening at the bottom here? Okay, no, we're fine. They have a rose petally finish and they feel quite flexible. I don't recall if these are a black core, so let's just do a quick little light test. No, they are not a black core because you can see the back design coming through if I shine a light. No big deal, it's just sometimes information that's helpful. But they do have a really lovely bend feel to them. They feel like they're going to be flexible, they feel like they're going to hold up nicely, and they don't feel overly thick. You can kind of see from the side here, it's not like a big brick in my hands. There is a edge treatment on these cards, and it is foil edged in what looks like a matte silver. It's not that super sharp, shiny, diggy kind of edging, but that's what we have there. All right, so borderless with, well, I shouldn't say borderless. It's full bleed artwork. So the artwork goes all the way to the edges of the cards, but there is a micro border sort of like framing on the front, and I believe that is a foiled. It seems to, it might not be, it might just be the way it's hitting my light here, but I think that's actually like the same foil color as what you see on the edge here. And I believe that continues the whole way. Yeah, it does have a bit of reflect. So that is a metallic foil edge. It's just a fine little detail. It's nothing major. And I believe that the letters, or sorry, the numbers on the cards also have a little bit of, it could just be a UV gloss accent. It might not be that it's foiled. There's a little touch of texture. So that might be a UV foil, and then the numbering and the titling might also have, that's textured too. So I think that's a UV gloss, I'm going to guess. So a little bit of spot gloss accenting on that micro border and on the numbering and titles is great. It's great. It's just a little something to help them pop a little better. So here is the Idiosyncra deck right here. So you can see that the vibes and the composition have a similarity. I'm going to zoom us in a bit more so you can see it better. I really want my candle. Is that just like superficial of me? But here we go. Okay, so we have our Fool, our Magician, with the hidden pearl in there, the idea that over time we can create something beautiful, even when it's uncomfortable. I like that. The High Priestess. So we're still in this like kind of crystal cave vibe. We're underneath. I feel like we get a lot more of that cave vibe in this card over the original Idiosyncra deck. So I really like that update a lot. And of course, our tree here is just much more refined, much more beautiful. We still have a fruit tree. We have different kinds of fruit. So we have what looks like pomegranate, apple, pear, lemon, orange, lime, like everything you can think of. Plus all these mushroom. It's like, it's abundant, right? You get that abundance feeling. We still have a moon, but it's a full moon instead of a crescent. So just some little updates, but you can tell it's the same kind of scene, but it's been updated. These are very similar both in color and feel, but just again, more detail, more refined on the cracked amethyst side. The Hierophant. I mean, this absolutely scratches my Idiosyncra deck itch and then some. We still have the mushrooms at the bottom. I love all these spiritual symbols hanging from the trees. This is something I love when it appears in a Hierophant. It's something that I try to keep in mind in my own deck creation process. It's something where, for me, I want the Hierophant to feel non-denominational, you know what I mean? And I love that this appears here. I do kind of miss the skull. There was a skull on the previous version of this card, and I don't see it over here. But we do have a goddess symbol. We have a pentacle, and we have a Star of David, a key, a seashell, a horseshoe, a feather, a cross. I don't know what that symbol is, that goddess symbol. It's wonderful. I love it. Quite a big change in the Lovers card from our like sort of two flamingo situation from the original to this bee that is pollinating a flower in the new version. Love, I mean, like you can really see the change in the artwork. And if I remember correctly, the reason Jessica Bott had not reprinted the Idiosyncra deck is because this was, I think, her first deck she ever created. And I believe she just wasn't happy with the quality of the artwork and did not want to release it in its current state. And I understand that as an artist, a lot of artists have experienced things like that. Here in Strength, we have flowers blooming in the cracks, and I love both versions, but obviously this is just, again, much more refined. A change here for the Hermit. So in the original Hermit, we had a little sea turtle under the water. I think this is much more Hermit evocative with the cave and the subtle glow from inside. We can imagine somebody's in there having their retreat, but we can't even actually see them. And I think that's awesome. Wheel of Fortune, we have a symbol here. I am not familiar with this symbol. So I am curious. There's storm over here. There's changing seasons. There's change all around. I'm assuming that's meant to signify the constant ongoing onslaught of change. I'm going to peek the guidebook off camera because, again, I want to cover the guidebook sort of separately, but I am curious if it actually says anything about this. I think it's maybe like a homemade. It doesn't specifically. It kind of does, but again, I'll go over that later. But I feel like this is kind of like a homemade symbol to represent the cycles of change. Ooh, okay, so Justice, interesting. So here we had like a plant growing out of a skull. Here we have the constant drip, drip, drip in a cave and how it creates stalagmites and stalactites. I think that's actually really cool. The idea that small actions over time create something, they build something good or bad, or they destroy something good or bad. I actually really like that. Okay, I gotta admit, I'm a little sad about the Sloth because I really liked the Sloth and the Hanged Man in the Idiosyncra deck. However, I do like the iceberg here and the fact that it's still and it's slow moving with glaciers and icebergs, but there's this richness. There's so much to be discovered in that experience. So I think there's a lot to be said for the iceberg. Death as this stump with all this growth over it. Amazing. Love it. Same kind of vibe as the old one. Again, just refined and without a skull. Interesting. These two. So here we have temperance. So we go from this sort of like overgrown log, which for death, the decomposition and then creating new life out of death makes sense. But here we have temperance. And so we have I think the focus here is on the mycelium. That's what I would guess. The roots in the mycelium creating a network. I'm so curious. Oh gosh, I gotta look in the guidebook again. I don't know if it's going to be helpful in the way that I'm hoping. Yep, fungal mycelium fills healthy soil. These threads connect to plant roots and can create a mutually beneficial relationship, providing and receiving water and minerals to their neighbors, from and from their neighbors. So it's this symbiotic relationship happening in the mycelium for temperance, which is so interesting. It's nobody's dominating anybody else. There's a balance. There's a very delicate balance being held through that whole network. I like that. And I think in the original card, if mycelium was the point with all these mushrooms, it's not as obvious in the card as here where we get to see underneath. The devil, again, very similar vibes, just updated and refined. I like that. Something's caught in the web. I do really enjoy the volcano action for the tower. Again, you can just see the updated artwork. The star, same here. I like the shooting star. I like how still and beautiful this is. This feels a little bit like, I get. It doesn't, I love this so much more. Again, we have a more refined moon here, but we still get the wildness. I like these like blue moonflowers here at the bottom. And there's just more going on. It looks like this, there's almost like a wafting of steam. And is this I'm going to peek at the guidebook again. I'm doing it off camera because like I'm going to go down a rabbit hole if I do this. Burning embers. What's burning? What will it do to you? And then Datura moonflower induces hallucination and psychosis. The smoke is obscuring and it's hard to see through. Yeah, okay, I'm being coy about the guidebook and I don't need to. The guidebook is very infographic style. And I think it's just really, really great. So like here, for example, in the moon, it's just calling out the things we're seeing and what they mean here, which is really just amazing. And in the mycelium card that I referred to earlier with temperance, you can see again, infographic, right? Fungal mycelium. So again, it feels like we're looking at infographics. I think it's great. The devil, the trap, the desire, the moth wasn't paying attention and got trapped, but the spider needs this to survive, indulge the physical pleasure. So very, very cool. It's the neatest take on a guidebook ever. I just think it's so cool. So we'll talk more about that at the end, but yeah. Okay, anyways, here we have the sun. And we have all of these blooming cactus flowers that are exploding and blooming despite the heat of the day. Oh, Judgment's had a big change. Oh, I really kind of like this, but this is very stormy. It's very like whatnot. Let's see what she says in the guidebook about Judgment. So we have renewal, transition, and rebirth. So we have the remains of a burned forest and epicormic growth. So some plants need fire in order to regrow or develop new sprouts. So this is a burnt forest, and we're seeing that the first signs of new life. So the idea of like regeneration, rebirth, transition, renewal. For me, Judgment is more of an evolution, but I suppose this is an evolution for the forest after a forest fire. So that works. Oh, that's beautiful. I mean, just so much softer than the really like crisp. All the lines were so crisp in the Idiosyncra deck, which, mind you, I don't mind that, but yeah, I like this better. Here we have a magic, which is the bonus card, and I just love that. Okay, and then we have our suit of arrows, which I'm going to assume are air. Let's just double check. Minor arcana. Okay, so we have stones, arrows, swords. Okay, so arrows are fire. Does she have an intro page to the swords? Arrows, element of fire, passion, and energy. Okay, so let's just go through and see what we think. So we have fire. I'm going to have to remember that this is fire because all these feathers and things are not giving fire to me. So I'm going to have to remember that. And I don't remember that about the Idiosyncra deck. But I mean, look at this. This is very similar to the original version. There's not huge changes here. In the three of arrows, we just have a single three-winged arrow, like a dart, instead of these. But again, we've got lots of air energy here. It makes me wonder if her swords are going to feel fiery. Did I not know that about this deck? Because this feels very air. But the four of arrows is definitely giving celebration vibes, like with wands. The five of arrows is giving tangle and, yeah, okay. The 6 of arrows with the bullseye is definitely a success vibe. The 7 of arrows up against this wall is giving defense vibes. Again, we can see that the overall idea of the card has been maintained. It's just been updated. The 8 of arrows with the fire here. Okay, we've got fire. And then we have, the 9 of arrows going through the wind here and just really not making it. And then the 10 of arrows, we have that burden vibe. This feels more fiery than the original. And the color palette in the sky here is feeling more fiery through this particular court card. So we have our page, our knight, our queen, and our king with this light. Definitely brings in the fire a little bit more. I mean, when I think about it, arrows are like connected to that passion and drive. I can see that for sure. But it does certainly feel air-y with the feathers and things. In the 2, we were seeing a lot of the feathers and these, it almost looks like footprints, but they're not footprints. They're just little stones. So when I think of the 2 of wands, right, it's like, do I stay or do I go? I get that vibe there. And the 3, we're on our way. We've embarked. The 4, there's that pause, that milestone. Here we have a road, like what looks like pointing the way, but there's like this pause, this celebration, almost maypole style. The 5, the 6 of wands. Yeah, so I mean, it works visually. It's just throwing me a little. And I don't know why I forgot that. That is something that I just didn't really remember. Okay, let me get these cards out of the way so we can start with fresh piles. Okay, so the Ace of Cups, I love the splash here of the hot water as it kind of like goes everywhere. It's overflowing. I like that here. Love the intertwining tea tags for the teacups. That's super cute. I'm glad we kept with that motif. Love this. Kind of missing the whipped cream, but we're still getting our like lattes, so it's fine. The 4 of Cups with this sort of blah. There's just like one cup. There's like a stagnancy to the card, which works. Our broken cup for our 5 of Cups. Still, this is, yeah, these are great. 6 of Cups, got tea party vibes. I love the update to the teapot and like the rainbow of teacups and like the stars hanging. It's really cute. The rainbow tablecloth. 7 of Cups. Interesting. Feels much less like picking out your tea for the day and more like coming up with your own brew and like having to be careful what you put in it, and some might be poisonous, like some might be not, so having to be extra careful. This is more like just selecting a cup of tea. The 8, as we're packing the teacups, same vibes, just improved artwork. I'm so glad we got to keep the cozy vibes of the 9, but this is so much more, makes more sense. This looks like a cup of hot cocoa like in Hawaii. It just like, it's a bit of a mix. Whereas here it's like, yes, cozy hearth, cup of tea, cookies. It's still giving that kind of hot cocoa style of coziness. And the 10 with all of these abundant plants just growing, so much abundance. Our Page of Cups is here is painting, and here looks like it's correspondence. I think this makes much more sense for the page with the paint set there. Our Knight and the love letter. This is so much more obvious that that's what's happening than here. Here it's a letter, but here it's clear that it's a love letter. And I love that for the Knight of Cups. In the Queen, we have, like, we're doing some divination. Same thing over here, but it's much more clear here with the crystal ball and the pendulum. Here we had some crystals and a candle, but this is much more on point, I think. And we see that it's a full moon outside, which I love. King of Cups. I love that it's like beakers and science-y. I think that's super cool. You can see that intellect coming in. And then we have stones. This is going to be our earthly suit. So we have our Ace. I love the tunnel. The 2, all of this delicate balancing going on. The 3 creates a structure, but also a bit of a doorway. When I think of like what's required to put this together, it usually is a group effort. I love, love, love the like rock, sand, Zen garden vibe for the 4 of Stones. I've always loved that. I'm glad we got to keep that motif. The 5, I'm curious what I'm looking at here because I'm not sure I understood it here either. So let me just take a look at the 5. So it's eroded and worn away, washed out. So it's this idea of like something is being eroded. So that's what's happening in this. Okay, gotcha. The 6 of Stones. So when I'm thinking of the 6 of Pentacles or the 6 of Stones, I'm thinking about like giving back. I'm thinking of reciprocity. What's the vibe here? Grows higher, relies on the rock, is supported. So it's both giving and receiving support. The wood, it would collapse without the stone. Is made special by the tree, sacrificed itself. So both benefit, both give and receive. I love that. Okay. Oh, I love the spiral here for the 7. This reminds me of a labyrinth walk. Is that what it's meant to do? Oh, build up to create a whole picture move back and admire your progress. Oh, okay. So it's meant to be more of a stone mandala. Gotcha. Here we have the 8 of stones, and here's where we're seeing sort of mastery, and we have like wire wrapped jewelry here. So it's like this build of skill. Am I just like wanting to see like a labyrinth walk and everything? This looks like landscaping, but let me just see. Zen garden, perfectly arranged, so much available space, so much available time. So luxury, satisfaction, discipline is what we see here. Like, I just love the infograph style of the guidebook. It's so direct, it's so clear, and it's all we need, right? Here's the 10 of stones, and we have like the display of like accomplishments. The page of stones, a child's left their handprint on this stone, so we get that sort of like growth and maturing. The knight of stones, I'm so curious what she says about this. Okay, so the page is dawn, so it's the beginning of the day, fresh start, simple childlike reaching out. Unshaped stone can be shaped into or carved into anything, and then blooming new growth and inspiration for the flowers. For the knight, reliable, stubborn, and thorough, strong and stable, a guide, time-tested and reliable. So that's what we're looking at there. For our queen, it says nurturing, resourceful, protective, evening sky, experience calm, vine is alive and growing, supported by the pillar. Symbols clearly have meaning, a guide, a signpost, stable, firm, grounded, refined, and polished, uncomplicated. Okay, gotcha. Ooh, and then we have our king of stones, knowledgeable, practical, and successful. So large and in charge, secret knowledge, sort of in the stones with this green glow, receiving energy, giving energy, and there's an element of like these being students of this bigger stone. That's really cool. It's really cool. All right, and that brings us to our swords, and these so far feel very swordsy, so obviously. So that bolt of lightning, that bolt of clarity, I love that. The 2 of swords being I love this so much, this bridge of like this side, or you can like do both or either or neither. This 3 of swords being the sword that is bloodied and like having to grapple with or reckon with what's happened. I think that really, really works. The 4 of swords, we definitely get the respite here, the rest vibe in these. 5 of swords. Oof, it just looks like something bad went down here. The 6 of swords, these are all bundled up, or it's a sword bundled up. This reminds me of the sword being taken to, like Excalibur being taken back to Avalon or something. That's kind of the vibe here. The sword is on the water, like on the beach. I like that it's actually in the boat being moved here. The 7 of swords, this is that sort of darkness or sneakier what's happening under the surface. And of course we have a dagger under the surface. So that's really cool. The 8 of swords is that muck, that quicksand, or that swampy vibe, like being stuck. Like the clarity is obscured. We're in it. We're in the muck. 9 of swords, usually where we get like fear. But this is giving 8 of swords composition with the circle. I'm just curious how this is addressed. Stones, arrows, swords. 9. So it says scary, ominous, something bad, what's happening, why are they here, how did they get here? So just like the way it would make you feel to find that in the woods kind of thing. The 10, we have a broken sword. Like there's no repair at this point. It's in the pit. It needs to be buried. We need to move on. Okay, we have our page of swords. Again, we have that dawn, new beginnings vibe. Our knight of swords. What does it say about the knight? Direct, impatient, know-it-all, broadsword, a knight in shining armor, aggressive and certain. Then we have our queen of swords, which is a curvy blade. Interesting sword, aesthetically pleasing, still sharp and deadly. Snow and ice, cold and chilling, a part of life, not malicious. Okay. And then our king of swords, this is like a scimitar. Large sword, leader, cannot be questioned. Magic symbols for knowledge and wisdom. And lightning, energy, power, and illumination. So that brings us to the end of the deck. In both cases, the little idiosyncra deck. So you can see that like in every case, essentially we have, except for a couple of cards, most of these are almost the exact same as far as like the scene. The artwork itself has just been updated. So having this in, I think, a little mini is great because I can play with this original version if I want to. And so that works really well. Let me just pull out the Amethyst Oracle so you can see this in comparison. So we have, this is the vibe. I can do a quick little flip through actually. Why don't I just get these out of the way and we'll just do a quick little flip through of the Amethyst Oracle. So we have air, autumn, chai, chaos, collection, confinement, creation, day, destruction, earth, empty, energy, fear, fire, innocence, labyrinth, lava lamp, lies, magic, night, nostalgia, omen, order. This is so satisfying. I've always loved this image. Overwhelm, passivity, perspective, poison, precarious, protection, refresh, resistance, love the brick wall, ritual, science, secret, silence, solitude, spring, summer, time, tranquility, truth, water, winter, wish. Super, super cute. And I will say, having seen these and seen them all together, I don't feel like this feels like the right companion actually for this anymore. So I do have a full size somewhere of the Amethyst Oracle, but I put it away because I don't see myself actually pairing it with the Cracked Amethyst Tarot, because I feel like it's so perfect to pair with the original Idiosyncra deck, and so these two little minis can function very nicely as a pair together. But let me give this a shuffle. We'll take another quick look at the guidebook so you can kind of see how that's set up. But shuffle wise, like, so great. It's got flex. It's rose petally, but it's easy enough to put back together again. It doesn't feel sticky. I feel like rose petals come a long way. When it first came out, it was way too grippy and sticky. Like the cards just didn't want to like play together or slide together at all. And now it's much better. Like there's a little bit of resistance, but nothing major. And if I go to fan this, it's going to fan beautifully because rose petals just come a long way. So let me zoom this out a bit. And let me think. So for me, the first deck that is coming to mind as a pair, a couple things are coming to mind as a pairing. Diviner Definitions, Sacred Creators, Roots and Wings, maybe When My Soul Whispered even. So let's grab those and just see what we think. So let me just split my deck and move this out of the way. Okay, so let's look at When My Soul Whispered. Now this is the, before I do that, quick flip at the guidebook. I know I showed you this before, but it's all these just little info things for each one, and it's actually really great. It's not a bunch of unnecessary writing that you don't need. It's just like, what is happening in the artwork? What does it mean? And doing it this way was actually probably a lot of work for her, but I think is very effective. And I love it. I just love it. It gives us a few keywords for every card and this like extra perspective. I just think that's fabulous. So that's what's happening in the guidebook. Okay, so When My Soul Whispered, this is the original indie version of the deck. It's now out mass market. But I think, like, look at that. I think that's actually a really good pair. So we have clarity between the Ace of Arrows and Death. And even though this is watercolor and this is vector art, it doesn't feel like it clashes because there's enough softness in this artwork that I think that it pulls it in. And there's not so much going on here that it's super distracting. You know what I'm saying? Like acceptance between the Seven of Cups and the Moon. So I think that actually works. Like, look at this. I think that actually works really well. And When My Soul Whispered, like I said, this is the indie version, but the mass market's out now. This is one of those decks that just, it really matches well with a lot of things. Okay, so that's what that looks like. With that being the case, I wonder if Roots and Wings would also go well, but we'll see. So here is the Connected and Free Oracle. Now this one is out of print, and I apologize, but I am curious because it is one of my decks I have that I feel like just blends really well with lots of things. So we have the Seven of Cups, the Moon, and Elixir. I love that. Let's look at another combo. Ooh, storytelling with the Six of Swords and the Four of Arrows. And I feel like visually these work just great. Instincts with the Nine of Stones and the Ace of Swords. Chakra Love between the Arrows and Cups. Look at this. Initiation. I feel like this works just fine. Again, this like softer, like this watercolory thing just seems to be kind of, let me go further down the deck here. And then just kind of reorient ourselves. So I think this also works. I think I actually, of these so far, I like the When My Soul Whispered a little bit more. I think they're just the simplicity and all the white space just balances out really nicely with this. So that's Connected and Free, Inner Alchemist Oracle. Okay. Let's check Diviner Definitions. Something about this feels like it would be like an interesting combo. So this is Diviner Definitions. This is just words, basically. Words and colors. Let me just shorten this pile. There's a lot of cards in this deck. Okay, so we have Brilliance between the Empress and the Queen of Arrows. Oof! Intense or great brightness of light, that luminance, excellence or distinction, exceptional talent or intelligence, splendor, elegance, or magnificence. Ooh, and see how this can tie us into the colors in the deck? So it's automatically drawing my eye this way because of the color matching. Hope, which brings me into this kind of tone here in the mountains. I'm liking the way that I can pull color in. Look at Humility, and it's going to connect me to that stone. I like this a lot, actually. Reflection. Ooh, there's like a little bit of clash and clutter here, but it is right there in the paint water. Kind of just makes me wonder where the color is everywhere. Community. Ooh, interesting with the Two of Stones. This is really fun, actually. Claim. I like it here, too. Neutral. Like, look at that with the wall. So cool. Okay, so that's a fun one. That's really fun. That is the Diviner Definitions. And I love all the various colors. Every single card is a slightly different. Even the ones that look the same are a little different. So yeah, love that. That's a fun pair. And this is just a really cool deck that I think is really easy to match up with just about anything because it's just colors and text. So I think it works well with this particular art style. And let's take a look at the Sacred Creators by Chris Ann. So again, let's just stack these up and go like that. Okay, so Sacred Creators is the mass market deck that works a lot like that Diviner Definitions in a way for just being very straightforward and simple. So Stop, Drop, and Ground. Like again, I love these together. Soul on Fire between the Eight of Stones and the Ace of Cups. Unstick the Stuck with the Star and the Page of Arrows. I think I actually like the Diviner Definitions a bit better, but this does work. This does work. Yeah. So that's a fun one. And this is another one of my, like, can just go with just about anything kind of deck. And then let's also look at one of my favorite oracles of all time, the Roots and Wings. And just out of curiosity, because these are all the decks that I feel like just blend with just about everything. Ooh, okay. And I've got one more idea too I kind of want to try just off the cuff. So Roots and Wings, just going to pull it out as is. Interesting. So we have the Hierophant and the Chariot, and between that we have Potential. Like I definitely think Abundance between the Eight of Arrows and the King of Swords. The Divine. I mean, like this is working for me. It actually looks great. I don't think there's any like real clash. And I'm surprised how well watercolor is looking next to this. And I don't think it would have worked as well next to Idiosyncradeck. In fact, I really struggled to pair my full-size Amethyst with anything because that flat graphic, when it's too flat, it can be difficult to blend with other things. This works. I think I liked, as far as like these watercolor, I think I liked the Connected and Free better. My Roots and Wings, by the way, is an example of a rose petal deck that is very sticky. It's one of like the earlier versions of that. And oof, it's got some stick. It's got some stick for sure. Like not sticky, but like grippy, sticky grippy. I don't know what the right word is for that. There's one other thing I want to try just because it has occurred to me that it might be kind of neat. So let me just grab one more thing here. So this is the Poesis. And I don't know why this one occurred to me. It might be terrible. We're going to find out. But for some reason, maybe because there's no people or like anything in any of these cards, it just occurred to me that this might be kind of interesting. I don't know. What do we think? So we have Abundance. Ooh, Silence. Obviously that looks amazing. Celebrate between Judgment and the Seven of Swords. Explore between the World and the Four of Cups. I think I'm trying too hard with this one, if I'm being honest, but it is really interesting. Mind between the King of Stones and the Sun. Transform. I don't think it goes. First of all, this is very off color, off white, and these have a lot of crisp whites in them. I don't know. I don't think that quite works, but it occurred to me that it might be interesting to try. But this is a very offbeat sort of deck, but I do enjoy it. And I'm just thinking, looking at what I've got here, if there's anything else. Oh, actually, there is something I want to try. Okay, so this is my, oh gosh, what's this called? It's Raven Phalanx. I don't think this is going to go. This is a mixed deck. There's 2 different decks. I'll put them in the description box down below. They're mass market. Okay, so let's just try this. Okay, love that you are different. I don't hate it. I don't think it's my go-to, if I'm being honest. It feels a little too discordant. Like it's not quite harmonizing. I think of these, I think my favorites was When My Soul Whispered and Diviner Definitions, with Connected and Free also working really well. But I think When My Soul Whispered and Diviner Definitions were my favorites. Messenger. This is the Messenger Oracle and the, I forget the name of the other one. But I kind of Frankenstein them together because they had the same backs and kind of created my like perfect combo. Love that deck. Okay, so I think that's plenty for pairings to just experiment with. Overall, really happy about this deck. Glad to finally have it in my hands. I don't honestly know the long-term viability of these 2 little mini decks, but they are so mini and they're so convenient to have something this small that I can just like Tarot and Oracle matched up and just like chuck in a bag and go. I think that's super fun. So I think I'll play with these for a bit. And there's a part of me that just, I've been wanting the Idiosyncra deck specifically for so long, but this definitely scratches the itch for Idiosyncra deck, I think. And they're so little, they're not super practical, these little minis, but again, having wanted the Idiosyncra deck for so long, I had to. But I have to say, I'm very impressed with this innovative take on a guidebook. I think this is great. I think this is like what I'm looking for in a guidebook. I think this does the trick. We got some keywords, we've got an explanation of the art, and that, like, what more could I want? And it's kind of more than meets the eye. Like, this is art all by itself, obviously. Here's the 7 of Arrows, defense, offense. It's great. So that is the Cracked Amethyst Tarot. Really well done little deck, and I'm very, very happy to have it in my collection. I'm going to have to, man, I kind of want to put this in one of Peggy's glowy mushroom bags, but I don't know if she has one different from the one I already have. And you know what? Wait a minute. I'm silly. Hold on. We got one more pairing to try. Wait. Hold on. Just out of curiosity. Oh, is this one upside down? No, that's the magic card. Okay, let's just, because there is actually a good amount of mushrooms in this deck, and it is kind of darkish. This was the fabric I was just thinking of. This actually glows in the dark, this mushroom fabric. But this is my Midnight Magic mushroom deck. And it didn't occur to me to try to pair these until I was talking about the bag. And I was like, oh, looking at the box and realizing all the mushrooms on the box. Let's just take a look. I mean, that's kind of neat. Oh my God. Like, that's kind of neat, right? It's tarot and tarot, and I don't normally mix tarot and tarot, but I kind of feel like that's sort of fun. Like, is it just me? Maybe it's just a moment thing. I don't know. I don't know that it's the first pairing I would think of, to be honest, but I really do like this Midnight Magic Tarot quite a bit. But it's something to think about. If you have it already, it might be fun to play around with if this is one you've been struggling to find a pairing with and none of the other things I mentioned you have handy. But yeah, that is the... Now I'll wrap it up. Okay, that was the Idiosyncra deck. Thank you so much, as always, for being here. And a special thank you goes out to my Unicorn Fam channel members. Thank you so much for your support of the channel. It really means the world. And for you, if you're watching, do be sure to comment, maybe share your thoughts. What do you think about the various pairings? What was your favorite? Do you have any other ideas to share with people? How would you work with this? These kinds of things are great to chat about in the comments with me and with other people who come by. But also, there's a new feature, I think, on YouTube called Hype. I don't know what it does. I haven't tried it yet. I should try it. But I think it does something cool. So I don't know. Like, it's another way to cue the algorithm. I guess you liked it, or you can click the like button, or you can subscribe if you enjoy this kind of content. But in any case, thank you so much for hanging out. And until next time, may your magic always shine from the inside out. Bye.